Good evening and welcome to Real Talk on SABC3. The stage is yours. So if there's one phrase that has become entrenched in our vocabulary over time, it would have to be the one of going green. But what exactly does that mean? Well, to put it simply, it means making ecological decisions that can help protect the environment for future generations. Later in the show, we're looking at various businesses that are taking this on seriously across fashion, the motor industry, as well as construction. And all of this affects you as well. So don't be like, I'm not going green. No, it's for you as well. So make sure you stick around to find out how you could be helping the country and the world as a whole to go green. But first, he is the most trusted go-to guy when you need to know what is happening in the entertainment space. Commentator, content curator, blogger, consultant, and most recently, birthday boy, Mphela. Birthday boy. I've always wondered why I like you, and then I found out you're a May baby.
Okay.
You know I'm also a May baby, most.
Is it?
Yeah.
Kings and queens are born in May, right?
19th of May. My birthday is so important. They're having the royal wedding on that day. So,
okay.
Excuse us. I've missed you because I don't know if what I hear is true or not.
Yeah.
So this is why you're here. I mean, the most pressing, easily the story that's kind of dominated all blogs, all newspapers, all news stories was the sad passing of Akumzi.
Yeah, Akumzi and the 4 other people. I mean, the story has been told so many times. Probably everybody at home knows about this.
Yeah.
However, what we can give here as an exclusive is that there was reports in the media that the father of Siasanga had an issue with finding her daughter naked. Okay, the story was also attached to the fact that there were some items that were missing.
Yes, I heard
some of her
that
belongings,
wallets were
like
missing
that.
apparently.
Yes. Yeah. So we can clarify something a little bit. From the sources that I've spoken to, I think he was quoted out of context. When he was talking about finding her naked, it was not at the scene. It was actually at the morgue.
Okay.
So we can clear that up so that people understand, because I also tweeted that because I was also disgusted, because I also assumed that they meant at the scene, but it was at the morgue, and that's a normal thing at the morgue.
Okay, yes.
You know?
But what was it feeding? The fact that in many instances when there's a car accident, the first people on the scene first take everything they take.
Exactly.
And then they call the cops.
And I was shocked because I actually had to say that I clearly live in a bubble, because I didn't know that was a thing that's a common thing. Because
it's a total
normally what you
common
read about, it's about the EMS people that they get robbed or whatever. I didn't know that when there's an accident, people actually go to accident just simply to steal from the people that are. I was amazed, appalled, like I was shocked.
Dude, decades, as long as cars have been around.
And a lot of people were tweeting me, and some of it was just really sad when people were saying, when you went there, my mom's phone was not there. I went there, my dad's thing. So you put a human emotion onto the story. It's not just, they're just doing it. Once you just start getting people tweeting you and saying, this happened to my family, this happened to my sister, my brother, whatever. You're like, what kind of world do we live in?
Was there no backlash in terms of how the attention went around the passing? Because 5 people passed away, but because we knew Akumzi, naturally our attention and our resources and our energy is going to go there. But there's Siasanga, and there's the other 3 that passed away
there
as
was,
well.
like, for instance, on Saturday, 2 other people were buried. That day,
Same day.
Same day, Uskumbuso and Udumi. They are not famous. Uskumbuso is the IT guy from Urban Brew, and Udumi was, I assume, friends with the guys and whatever. They were buried on the very same Saturday that Akumzi was buried. But unfortunately, Akumzi is the most well-known, and his friends are more famous, so they're able to make more noise, and then, he's able to get more media attention. But you see, for me, it's not even about that. If these people's families and people who genuinely love them,
it doesn't matter.
Whether it doesn't really matter. Why does it matter that the media is putting you on the cover or whatever? It doesn't really matter. Okay. The only issue that I personally had was about the relationship between Siasanga and Akumzi.
Yes.
I feel personally, I don't speak for anybody else, I just feel like the friendship was downplayed a bit. It wasn't given the attention and the recognition that I feel it could have been given.
Okay.
She was mentioned a couple of times, but if you didn't know about their friendship, you wouldn't know that they were that close. Siasanga was Akumzi's best friend. They did everything, brother, sister, kind of
But
friendship.
the fact that they were driving together to the Eastern Cape when Akumzi had an option to fly, but he
Exactly.
chose to drive with her,
Do you
is very
understand?
telling.
Yeah, so that's just on me. A lot of
Yeah.
people call me out on there and say, but Phil, you know, you're reaching, whatever, which is fine. I'm entitled to my
I've got
own
long
opinion.
arms.
You know?
I'm a reacher. I'm a reacher. All right,
Yeah.
but I mean, I caught a bit of the funeral.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
reading the obituary, you know.
I mean, that woman has become a national treasure. I mean, like, honestly, I don't know why she's not coming back to television.
I think it's time for a comeback,
Exactly,
actually.
because clearly people still love
Yeah.
her and still
Trust
respect her and trust her, which is what we need right
Trust.
now because,
Trust.
yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
mediocrity on television right now. So we need people like her with a bit of credence.
So what else would you say was a touching moment that stood out at the funeral?
For me, the performances, I mean, like at the funeral, obviously, Kelly Khumalo's performance had me. At the memorial service, Vusinova. I mean, undoubtedly, these are two of the best vocalists in the country, in my opinion. And they gave amazing performances. I was touched. Yeah, that's Kelly right now on the screen performing.
But I mean, Kelly could sing a grocery list.
I know. I know. But the other thing also that I want to mention is the camaraderie that I saw being exhibited by these young industry guys around Akumzi. And I hope that it's not just for Akumzi. I hope that that's something that, you know, permeates toward all sectors of our industry because we need that.
No, but let's not act like it was not because of Akumzi.
No, true that.
Because Akumzi was that person who always had a compliment, who always had direction, who always
Yeah.
wanted to ask, who always wanted to praise, who never thought that by him telling you that you're good, it actually means that
Takes away
he's
anything
bad.
from
You
you.
know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
And that's why that happened. That's why that happened.
Thank you. And I didn't think about it that way.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Think
No,
about
it
it.
actually makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I loved it nonetheless. And I hope that we can get a lot more Akumzis in our industry that can do that. I mean, you are my Akumzi girl. You know how much I love you. Yeah, because
Easy.
you got my back. Do you know what I mean? That's what I
Yeah.
mean.
True.
That
I hear
thing
what you're saying.
if something happens, you know, I know that, you know, the Anele will stick up for me. Anele, you know, that kind of thing. And we lack it because it's a very competitive industry. One would think that we don't have that camaraderie, we don't have those friendships in the industry and stuff like that. And I was very, very, very pleasantly happy to see that being exhibited and say, hey, this happens in our business.
Speaking of bigging up people regardless
Yes.
of anything, hello Atando Kani. Hello Atando Kani. Huh? What did my former brother-in-law do?
Well, congratulations to your former brother-in-law. He just won an award in the US. But the big story is, I mean, the festival itself is not really that big. It's the Houston Black Film Festival. But the big story is the one and only Michael B. Jordan actually congratulated him, Mr. Black Panther himself, you know, the Killmonger. So that was huge for him. And I mean, like, Atona made it very clear that he's looking to America right now. He's not about SA anymore. He planted his seed here, but he's looking to further his career beyond our shores. And I mean, getting a shout out from somebody like Michael B. Jordan introduces Atanda to Michael's friends and fan
his
base
network.
and his network and stuff like that.
And it doesn't hurt that his dad as well is
Exactly.
already in the franchise and that he's good, so then it'll fly.
Absolutely. I mean, like, what can he say? Congratulations, brother.
He's not watching, he's in America.
Well, it's YouTube.
Hey, Atando. Okay,
Right.
R. Kelly. Can I just ask,
yeah.
can I just ask, what happened in the last 2 weeks where did more women come out and speak against R. Kelly in a sexual? Then what happened? I don't know, because people were acting like R. Kelly's, you know, he's just highly sexual, that there's nothing wrong with him.
What happened recently is that, I mean, this Mute R. Kelly movement suddenly got attention from celebrities. Do you
Why?
understand? I don't know. Maybe somebody just woke up and decided, this is not getting traction. Let me just help. Let me give you an example about what happened. Remember when we did that episode where we talked about Imbeu?
Yes.
Right? As a young lady called Bushle happened to be watching our show.
Yes.
And then she then sends me a message and says, it happened to me. I put out her story, and that, you know, big snowballed into, you know what I mean?
To the allegations against Carlo.
Mind you, Carlo had been accused on social media before, but it was not on a platform like this where it gets attention. Do you understand? I mean, like, as far back as last year, somebody actually on Twitter said that Carlo had raped her. Well, alleged that Carlo had raped her. But that never got attention. Do you understand?
And now it got attention.
We talked about it, and then Bushle responded, and then it gets attention because Mphela now is talking about it. So it's the kind of same thing. So now you've got You had Ava DuVernay, Shonda Rhimes, Ava DuVernay, Janae Smollett-Bell, Viola Davis, and Kerry Washington now putting their names behind the Mute R. Kelly movement, and that in itself gave the movement credibility. Even with the Harvey Weinstein story, that story had already happened. There were already people accusing him, but until the celebrities started getting on board, that's when it got traction.
Can I give you my theory on the R. Kelly thing? Because I was thinking about it this weekend. I feel that America is so racially charged.
Yeah.
That black women in America are constantly having to protect black men.
Exactly.
Because even when a black man does something wrong, the mere fact that if black women say, yeah, he did this, you are now arming the other races to then find a way to further, you know, oppress black people in America. So I think for the longest time, they were quiet. They weren't necessarily saying, no, he didn't do it, but they weren't as vocal as they are now. And they just got to a point where they were like, you know, it's okay if we lose this one. Enough is enough. Because it wasn't necessarily a protection of R. Kelly. I believe it was a protection of the black man, which is the most endangered thing in America.
And it makes absolute sense. You know what? The same argument that you just made is the argument that I make around the hashtag men are trash. I understand the motivation behind it, but as soon as you label men are trash is not talking about Yaku. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's the black man who's going to carry the brunt of
the black man.
I absolutely
This is why
get
it was
that.
so difficult for us as black women to be like, men are trash.
Yeah.
So when on Twitter they're like, oh, you guys just say it with ease, men are trash. No, it's not easy for us to say men are trash, guys. It's not easy, but we've had enough. We've had enough.
That's good. Do you still have time?
No, we don't have time. But I mean...
I think we did a good job. That's fine.
You did a good job. Phil,
Thank
as
you.
always, you're amazing, and happy birthday from everybody.
Thank you so much.
We love you like that.
Love you too.
A big thank you, as always, to Phil and Bella. After the break, we're going into the various business sectors to find out what role companies are playing on reducing their carbon footprint in order to help the environment. We're talking going green. And welcome back to Real Talk right here on SABC 3, where the stage is yours. We are talking going green. Could you ever have imagined that the clothes you wear may be harmful to the environment or even yourself? Well, a 2012 report by Greenpeace exposed how several global brands were using dangerous chemicals in their garments, with some even said to be cancer-causing. So what's the alternative? Eco-friendly fashion seems to have the answer. My next guest has earned his stripes as a fashion entrepreneur. In 2007, his fashion line was praised for being eco-sensible in an African context at a showing in Paris. 2 years later, the fashion label would form part of an international exhibit as part of the World Climate Summit in Denmark. He's also had an impactful role in the creative industry as a writer, a trend forecaster, and a TV personality. We welcome onto the show founder and creative director of the clothing label, Funduzi, Craig Jacobs.
Hello.
Who, by the way, dressed me for my first photo shoot ever in this industry.
I remember that.
Yes, I remember, and we were on a scooter for a chocolate brand. I remember that, and I've since given away the sweater. But
I was going to say, do you still have the
no,
t-shirt?
I don't, because you know I have to purge. Otherwise, I'll live with my clothes. So I have to purge. But this is very interesting for me because I'm pretty sure there are many people sitting at home and they have no idea that fashion big brands across the globe are being harmful to the environment, all in the name of profit.
Well, any clothing. I mean, the scary part is, more often than not, what you're wearing probably has about 8,000 chemicals in it.
Chemicals to what? To straighten,
So
to dye?
if you think about dyeing, finishing, the production, the scariest thing is what I call, the nyawupe of clothing is cotton. Cotton has got so much pesticides in it that, and the pesticides have been linked to causing things like memory loss, severe depression, affecting your immune system, can cause paralysis, even death. And that's just cotton.
Okay,
So,
is it possible though to wear clothes and good clothes that have not been put through some process of chemicals?
well, it's not possible, but you can do certain things. So for instance, I use cotton as an example. You should try and look for organic cotton, because cotton that's organic doesn't use pesticides. When it comes to dyes, try and look at at products that have used natural dyes in them. Yeah, and also just be conscious because look, we can't change everything. So I will say the one way you can be green is to think about if it's worth wearing, then it's worth repairing. So don't throw it away. Try and find ways of reducing landfill because that's the other scary thing about clothing. It's become one of the biggest causes of landfill in the world. I think in the UK, it's 350,000 tons of clothing gets thrown away every year.
Okay, so, but we are a third world country.
Yes.
Are we throwing clothes away?
This is the sad part about Africa. So in Africa, we produce the cotton.
Yeah.
The cotton goes overseas. Then Western people, because they're discarding so much clothes, they donate it to charity, it comes back here. And we get given, the clothing gets dumped here. And that's why countries like in Kenya, at the moment, they're trying to ban secondhand clothing because we don't want to become the dumping side of the rest of the world.
Okay, so then outside of, I get the going green part and the chemicals and the organic cotton, but then surely there's something, oh, nice techies.
Thank you.
Then surely there's something wrong with our channels because there are plenty of people in this country who need clothes.
Yes.
I don't think we're a dumping site if people want to give us their clothes. There are plenty children, there are plenty women, and not even just poor people who need to go to job interviews, people who need wardrobe to go to work. Why isn't the clothes reaching them?
So that's why we've got to start seeking out these opportunities. So for instance, there's a company in South Africa called the Clothing Bank that gives you an opportunity to donate your clothes to. And then that goes on to other people. So that's how you've got to think about it. You've got to, I think the biggest problem we have at the moment is fast fashion. Because fast fashion has created this system where we think we have to follow trends all the time. And we really, I think about my parents and their grandparents. They bought clothing that they wore for a long period of time.
And then they pass it on and you just tailor it and then they pass it on. Then you tailor it and fix it then.
Absolutely. They say today, I think in the UK, again, young people are wearing clothes for 3 or 4 weeks and then discarding it. And that's because of fast fashion. It's because of the fact that you want to be on trend all the time. Yes, it's Instagram.
Oh, really? It's Instagram. Okay, I want to talk about the outfit that you're wearing. Is this organic?
Okay, so how I've approached it is I try to use as much local material as possible.
Okay.
So for instance, the t-shirt, it's made from an African wax print. The cotton is produced here. So I've tried to reduce the carbon footprint as much as possible. So because a lot of the materials are made here, because I manufacture locally, it's not harming the planet that much.
Is it not more expensive?
Well, everything is relative. I think that it's all about supply and demand. So the more people support local, and heck, that's supporting the economy, then the costs will go down.
Because sorry to interrupt, when I hear organic, right?
Yes.
Even when you hear organic chicken, right? Then all of a sudden it's a bit more pricier.
Yes.
And going green, it just means it's pricier and there must be systems and you must travel a bit further to go find things. So I already, like I said, we're a third world country, to be trying to convince people who have nothing already to have more of nothing,
That's why I said you don't necessarily have to go green, but you need to be sustainable. And you need to be conscious. So before you purchase something, think, do I really need it? And is it going to be an investment?
But aren't you now going against the grain then of being a fashion designer? Aren't the other fashion designers sitting at home quietly hating you like, oh guys, is Craig telling people not to buy our clothes?
Look, I think the scary thing in the world is we need to make a difference. We need to make a change because it's our planet. And if we don't do something, then who's going to do it? And when I started my clothing label, it was a simple premise. It was a line, a phrase by Mahatma Gandhi, which says, you must be the change you want to see in the world. And I read this scary piece of information about one of the biggest luxury groups in the world, leather goods that probably you have and I have, your wallet, your handbag. And they, at the end of a season, they don't discount, they incinerate.
Which means?
So, everything gets destroyed. So there's a certain luxury company that.
Okay, but that's obviously to keep the supply and demand eco scale down.
But I mean, that's cows that were killed to produce leather goods, and now it's been destroyed. No one's even been able to use it. And I mean,
so
I
are
think
they not remaking it into something else for the
No.
next season? They just burn it and
I
that's
think
it.
that's horrible. And I don't want to be part of that cycle. So for me, I think that, I mean, what I try to do with my clothing label is also just to conscientize people. Yeah.
And do you not feel that at times it distracts you from the calling, which is to make us look good?
Well, I think looking good and helping the planet is more important than just looking good and discarding the clothes tomorrow.
All right, so it's Funduzi.
Fundutsi.
Fundutsi.
Yes.
Fundutsi. This is what they're spearheading, you know, the going green in fashion.
Yeah, I talk about clothing with a conscience. That for me is really important. And that's why I say conscientizing yourself, being aware of what you're doing. You don't have to be a tree hugger.
Yeah. But also, you know, just, you know, to wrap it up, when the whole I'd rather go naked than wear fur thing started, you know, a good 2 decades ago, people didn't think that, you know, it would take off. And right now, the entire world frowns at you if you rock up wearing fur.
Absolutely.
It's like, who do you think you are?
Absolutely.
You know, and you know, the Kim Kardashians, they're stopping because they're just tired of getting all this. So if we can get the entire world to frown like they did to fur, you know, to luxury brands like this, I think we could get somewhere.
And I think just in South Africa, you don't have to go and look for an organic T-shirt. All you have to do is, if you have an opportunity between 2 white T-shirts, pick the one that's made local. And in that way, you're reducing a carbon footprint.
Okay.
That's simple.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure you've opened many an eye. Thank you so much to fashion entrepreneur Craig Jacobs. Now, in life, there are only 2 spaces we will ever find ourselves occupying. Either we're in the great outdoors, taking in all that Mother Nature has to offer, or we find ourselves inside a building of sorts, whether it's our office, the hotels, hospitals, restaurants, even our homes. After the break, we learn more about why the construction sector has also hopped on board the Going Green train. Come back to us. And welcome back to Real Talk right here on SABC3. So, over the years, there's been a lot of pressure on businesses across the sectors to take their obligations seriously, to being accountable to our environment. One of the sectors that has some of the biggest impacts on our environment has to be the construction sector. Everything from planning, construction, operation, maintenance, renovation, and demolition has a huge environmental impact, not to mention the waste and the pollution produced by the construction field. Luckily for all involved, people in construction have been making the necessary strides to play their parts in going green. Part of that is thanks to companies like Ecocentric, who offer a step-by-step service to helping raise green buildings. I'm now joined by the director of Ecocentric, Jutta Burns-Mundi. Am I saying it right?
Almost, yes.
Almost. Mundi.
Mumbi.
Mumbi.
Yes, there we go.
Jutta Burns-Mumbi.
That's fine. Otherwise, call me Mary. It's fine.
Mary, will you answer? Your name must be such like a conversation at dinner, right?
It's absolutely dinner conversation, yes, yeah.
Listen, I read an article in, it was either Time magazine or New York Times or something recently, where Leonardo DiCaprio, who's very big, a big advocate of going green, and the one line that struck me was, there is no planet B.
That's correct.
So we
Not even a C.
We don't have a plan B. If we mess this planet up, that is it, right? So is this why you find yourself part and parcel in the center of construction going green?
I formed Ecocentric, now 11 years ago? And part of why I actually formed the business was I felt I needed to pick my battle. Back in 2008, when we were really faced with major environmental, Eskom switched our lights off for many months. We had a perfect storm. And I found that picking my battle within that environment was actually targeting the building and construction sector, which is really it's the single biggest contributor to global climate change. You know, as you said, you know, from demolition, as a waste generator, as an energy consumer, as a water consumer, and we spent about probably 70–80% of our lives inside buildings. So that has a major impact on everything that we do and how we actually conduct ourselves. So it's the biggest single opportunity that we find that can actually have an impact on climate change, a positive impact on climate change.
When I look at the construction industry, it is always, it seems like it's very driven by the bottom line and profits,
Yes.
right? So let's talk about the money side of things.
Okay.
You know, does your plan mean that, you know, the construction bosses are going to be, you know, digging a little deep into their pockets?
Look, maybe we roll it back slightly.
Yeah.
What we do is we develop or we work with developers and creating green buildings.
Yeah.
And we also work with property owners in turning their existing properties into green buildings.
Okay.
And that's exactly true. It's ultimately bottom line driven.
Yeah.
On the new construction side, we find at the moment to get a building, let's say we work a lot with the Green Building Council of South Africa. We rate buildings under their existing, or their tool, which is called Green Star. New buildings which might want to get a 4-star rating probably won't have an extra cost implication or a minimal cost implication. But the greener you go, yes, there might be a cost premium. There might be a premium on the. But when it comes to existing buildings,
Yes.
which is, I think, really where the exciting part
Yeah.
sits,
'Cause
is
it's like you have to transition them.
and we have, that's our biggest building stock. This is where we spend time. So greening our existing buildings, even though it might cost a little bit in the beginning, or there might be some capital involved, ultimately it actually reduces your operational costs. And then so it really is about, that's obviously bottom line driven. But there's another element, and that's for us really important. I'm actually an environmental economist by training, so I come from that side of the field. What we don't do actually, when we look at when we look at our environment, we just heard about clothing.
Yes.
The same goes for construction as well. If we don't take into account what the real cost is
Yeah.
of, for instance, disposing of waste. The real cost is not just the disposal cost of that waste, but what the long-term impact is on climate. What we're now feeling, and look at what's happening in Cape Town or in the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape with the water crisis, which is partially driven by climate change.
Yeah.
And these are direct costs that we're now feeling, which weren't paid before. So what we call externalities. And I think that's actually ultimately, yes, it might cost more now, to build a green building, but ultimately we're paying later or we're paying now.
So have you not, are you not in talks maybe? Because if you were rewarding companies for having BEE scores, right, and they are eligible to getting contracts and they're eligible to, striving financially, is that not something we should be having around the green issue, where if your company is going green, then it should be in the list of requirements of things that give you a scoring whether you're going to get a contract or not. Are you going green?
Absolutely, I totally agree. But look, I mean, I think there are elements. I mean, we work literally with the private sector. We assign ratings and we provide that kind of market exposure. But then obviously the other side is really what government is doing. What is government doing in terms of encouraging green buildings? That's probably also a discussion you will still have today around what the cities and provinces can do about it.
So are you finding it easy to convince companies? I mean, like you said, it's easier when you're building one from scratch, from scratch, because it's just a new thing. But to actually take an existing building and try and make it go green, I suppose it's a challenge. But when you are approaching CEOs and decision makers, do you find that there's hesitation, or it's like, no, it won't happen to us, or we're fine, we're not hurting the environment all that much?
It's usually the other way around, that they come to us and ask us for help, which is quite a nice one. So I think if we have to really start convincing, because I think that becomes a big convincing game, and I think that's a slightly different angle, but we often get approached by developers, by large property owners to assist them in greening either their new developments or also their existing building portfolios.
Because I see a lot of estates popping up and complexes and all of that, and the selling point is completely green.
Yes.
What does that mean? There's no electricity? There's only solar panels? Could you run me through a bit of an itinerary?
Okay, on the residential side,
Yeah,
yes, I can.
residential.
Yes, residential. Yeah, we talk.
We all live somewhere.
Yeah. Exactly, we all live somewhere. Obviously, solar panels is one thing, or you already have a much more energy efficient house, which is far much better insulated. You have less, possibly less draft. Your ceiling is insulated. Your walls may be insulated. You have energy efficient appliances. That's on the energy side. And you supplement with solar panels. On the water side, yes, we have all been talking about water savings and possibly in Gauteng, we're facing our very own day zero at some stage in the not so distant future. Talk about water collection, rainwater collection, having water efficient fixtures like your showers. So no more those half-hour singing sessions in the shower, but water efficient showers, water efficient appliances. These are the big things, certainly on the energy and water, and they're very immediately cost saving as well once you actually operate.
Yes.
Another element is also what kind of chemicals you bring into your house. For instance,
Cleaning chemicals
is one thing, but also how you paint your walls. We talk about volatile organic compounds. You know, that new car smell, which is actually extremely bad for you. It is carcinogenic, and you know, we do talk about chemicals a lot. So the indoor environment is absolutely crucial. So that's something we focus on as well. Always, and also thinking about, it's not just about what we pay now, but also what we might have to pay in the future.
You know, you said something which makes me feel a whole lot better. You said you're not convincing people, they're coming to you. And after today's conversation, I'm pretty sure more people will be coming to you. Please keep up the absolutely amazing work that you do, and thank you for your time.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Coming up next, after being rejected by Uber and Taxify several times, this next guest decided he would start his own e-hailing service with a difference. Find out what he did after the break. Welcome back. You're on Real Talk on SABC3. The stage is yours. Fezile Dlamini was once a student in strategic corporate communications who was bursting with ideas he thought could come in handy for Uber and Taxify. The only problem was Uber and Taxify were not interested. Not one to be phased, Fezile decided to adopt the same business model to launch his own e-hailing app called Green Scooter. The difference here is Fezile will be using low-cost, high-tech electric scooters to get people from point A to point B. So, I mean, you're fine. Forget Uber and Taxify.
Yeah, I guess.
Were you pitching these scooters to them?
No, actually for the past 3 years, when I was doing my undergrad, is that I was applying for jobs there because I wanted to work in the back end because I had so many robust ideas I felt like, you know, can be implemented with them for the African, you know, landscape. And eventually when I started building the idea for Scooter, I started off with, I took the vehicles and I was like, actually, if Uber were to add it or Taxify were to add it, it'll then change the whole culture of transportation.
So have you seen any of the ideas that you were pitching to Uber and Taxify manifest themselves, you know, in there? And you're like, hey, man, that's what I wanted you guys to do.
Yeah, so I think now in San Francisco, what Uber is doing is that they've got this whole ride-sharing side with like normal scooters. And then there's just something interesting that might happen this year that I heard. Little Bird told me something, so.
Are you gonna tell us what it is?
I can't.
Why?
I wish I can, but you know, it's just let me sit and watch, because at the end of the day, it's all about who understands the market better.
So you were studying strategic communications, right?
Stratcom at UJ.
Okay, but I'm getting a very inventor, you know, ideas vibe from you, that you're constantly wanting to create things. Is that who you are?
Yeah. You know what's so cool, né?
Yeah.
I always had a lot of toys, and I'd always break them and try
build them again.
Not necessarily build them again. You just break them just to see what's inside, and then I also, like, I got my first computer when I was 6. Yeah. And you know, that's where it all pretty much started in terms of digitization. Throughout, like when I was at Rhodes, I was attempting to do a BA law degree, which I eventually, you know the culture at Rhodes, you know, I found myself working at RMR, I found myself DJing, I found myself designing flyers, everything that's got to do with the comm side of things, and not what the legal side. So I found myself in Jeguti, I like creating something new.
So tell us about these scooters. Apparently, they are electrical, therefore not using petrol, which means going green.
Absolutely. So with the scooters, I managed to find them in Sweden, and I got into a great, agreement with the guys in Sweden, where they said to me, like, it's something I'm very proud of, where they told me that this was the best proposal we've ever received for what I'm trying to do, which for Scooter's more than just a ride-sharing application or e-services app. The plan, which I've even put out there in social media, is that I'd like to build a factory which will benefit 5,000 to 10,000 people by creating sustainable jobs.
Because currently the scooters are being built in Sweden and you want them to be built in South Africa, therefore, injecting the economy, creating jobs, and less green if it's made here.
Absolutely. So my plan is that with the Gigafactory that we eventually build, is that I want to build a scooter city around it. So this will be like Africa's first independent smart city, which obviously benefits the people, from the environment being self-sustainable. With having a factory that produces its own power, you can take that and put it back into a grid. We can save Eskom more billions that are being wasted, and create new sustainable solutions.
So what's the obstacle?
Now it's politics. So there's a new 250A regulation that after 2 weeks I went into the media, surprisingly. They want to create a regulation that scooters or tuk-tuks, three-wheeled vehicles, are not allowed to be used for passenger transport. Now, I want to know, it's just interesting as to...
Who put that bill forward?
Yes, 2 weeks after I went public. And at the same time, now there's a caucus that I'm attending with Sanedi and other stakeholders, where we literally obviously contesting it, because this type of vehicle is used throughout Africa. It's sustainable. It's something that can make commuting and transportation much cheaper and much better for the environment, especially because our vehicles, they're fully electric. Top speed of 60 kilometers an hour. Total distance of 90 kilometers. And it weighs 280 kgs, made out of 270 parts.
Is it not a safety danger zone?
No, I'd say with the current tuk-tuks that are there on the road, those are absolutely unsafe.
Do those things turn, and I'm like,
Listen,
yo.
it's a roller coaster.
And there's no safety belt. You just like, yeah.
So with ours, I even put up a crash test video. Where it was a 1.5 ton object, which at 27 kilometers an hour could show that the vehicle, everyone is intact, because everyone has a seatbelt, number one, which you don't have in your current tuk-tuk. And with how I also discovered the vehicles, that they share donuts in the snow, and I was like, this is what I want.
Is there a limit into how far it can go?
It's 90 kilometers, but
no, that's before it dies.
Yes. Right.
But in terms of how far this e-hailing service, because an Uber can take you to Cape Town if you wanted to, but I doubt your scooter's going to take us to Cape Town. Yeah.
So with that, there's something called battery swap that we also have.
Okay.
So if your current battery runs out, you just quickly switch it, then you get another 90 Ks. And obviously, there's a lot of R&D that we're trying to put into play, where we once tested with solar panels on the roof of the vehicles to try and give it more distance. But the guys in Sweden, they're also a startup. I'm also a startup. So we're trying to best make it work with what we have to reach the goal.
The masses.
Goal. The masses. The masses. We'd like to travel much further than that. The 90 Ks. But it's with time.
Okay. Listen. Good luck.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing you on the road. Be on the lookout for the green scooter. The pilot phase begins in September. Good luck, and thank you so much for joining us, Fezile Dlamini. Being environmentally responsible is something that governments all over the world have acknowledged and will require a concerted effort from both the private and the public sector. After the break, the city of Joburg tells us about the plans in building eco-friendly cities. Welcome back to Real Talk on SABC 3. The stage is yours. So from London to Paris to Johannesburg, cities around the world have come together as a network wanting to address the issue of climate change. This is how the C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group came to be. It connects more than 90 of the world's greatest cities, representing 650 million people and 1/4 of the global economy. The city of Joburg is part of this global initiative. To talk more about its role and the project, I'm joined now by Director for Air Quality and Climate Change, Lebu Molefe. Thank you so much for your time, Lebu.
Thank you, Anele.
It is a big task,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
But okay, so walk me through how you're biting it slowly.
Okay. Firstly, I think as a member city of C40,
Yeah.
we are afforded the opportunity to start talking with peers across the world, across the globe. This is a platform where mayors and city advisors are given an opportunity to talk to their peers about best practice when you are talking about, reducing the impacts of climate change. I think climate change is something that is with us. I'm actually taking comfort in that the Green Building Council, for instance, and the fashion industry, and we've heard also from a young entrepreneur
who wants to reduce
how
it.
we can reduce this thing. So we can embed it in our day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Now for the city of Joburg, yes, we are leveraging on this relationship with C40, but there are also things that we are doing to give effect to this collaboration. Measurement, for instance, of our footprint is something that we are actually quite conscious about. And as a city, we also want to be seen to be leading so that your normal Joburgers can also take comfort in the fact that we are committed in what we want to do to make Joburg more sustainable, resilient, and adaptive to this impacts of climate change. I'm sure you have seen that, in the recent future, we have experienced high temperatures in the city of Joburg.
Yeah.
And you might be asking yourself, why is it getting hotter?
But it's winter.
But it's winter, exactly. Yeah. And that is how it manifests itself in our living environment. As we emit more and more carbon into our environment, it changes the temperature and it gets hotter.
Is the pressure more for the city of Joburg? Because the city of Joburg, the population grows every year, right? It's not a case of, okay, this is the people we have, let's work with this. Obviously, there's like a heightened sense of urgency from you guys because we just find that everyone is flocking here.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a bad thing, please, you're welcome.
We have it on record that there is around 10,000 people that move into a city on a monthly basis, which then means that making the city more resilient and adaptive is actually quite paramount, because with climate change, you can imagine if we experience more and more flooding, it means there is less and less land available for human habitation.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's very important for us to do that. For instance, with more people moving in, there's more demand on transport systems, on electricity, on water consumption, on food. Actually.
We need to be planting that food somewhere.
We need to be planting that food somewhere, and the city has actually done a project that talks about food systems, like we use our rooftops to make sure that we plant and make sure that there's food that is generated, that is generated from our own city. So whoever said that urban agriculture cannot happen, Joburg has shown you that it's possible. This initiative is actually feeding into even restaurants that are operating within our city. So just going back to just the demand that comes with more people moving into the city. Electricity. So we've all experienced the blackouts, but there is things that we can do. The Green Building Council was talking about energy efficiency.
And the solar panel.
And the solar panels, which looks into alternative energy solutions. And the city has started.
Which ends up being cheaper?
Exactly. Because the capital outlay, obviously, it will take you a little bit out of your comfort zone. But when it comes to your day-to-day operations, you'll find that you are actually paying less. To that extent, the city has actually started a pilot in our metro center. We've been partnering with the Department of Energy, where we are doing an energy retrofit of the building. We have changed all the lights, we have done motion sensors, we have done also water demand management in the entire Metro Center. We are aiming to go even bigger in making sure that we also tackle our HVAC system and so on. So that's an opportunity for us to partner with the Green Building Council.
No, man, thank you so much for all of that information. What I do know about the city of Joburg is you guys are constantly doing things. And like when you mentioned the agricultural thing on top of the buildings, I was blown away by that because I first saw it in New York, and then the next thing, we're doing it and we're doing it even better. So Lebu, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for the city of Joburg for all the work that they do.
Thank you.
Listen, thank you to all my guests, I don't know what I was saying there, for helping us better understand the role that we all need to play in working towards an eco-friendly, sustainable environment. Remember, there is no planet B. Tomorrow, we carry on with the conversation we started on Workers' Day, and it blew up, okay? Labor law, workers' rights. You wanted us to open an entire hour on this where you can call in and give us your labor problems that you currently have. Tomorrow, the entire hour is dedicated to you because of you. Be sure to tune in and join us then. Isidingo's up next for myself and the rest of the team. Good night.